Hi everybody, and thank you so much for joining us for this morning's event with the debut author and singer-songwriter Christine Pillainayagam. My name is Zoe and I work at a national charity called the Reading Agency, which tackles life's big challenges through the proven power of reading. As part of this morning's event, Christine is going to talk to you about her brand new book, which has just been published in the UK, called Ellie Pillai is Brown. She's also going to share with you some songwriting tips and tricks before letting you have a go at writing your own lyrics to one of her pieces of music. So you should have something hopefully to write with, and if not, maybe grab that now. Teachers and librarians who are leading this session, you should also have been emailed 2 audio files, which you'll need during this event. So if you don't think that you have these, drop me a message in the chat box and I will send them over to you in just a moment. And I'd recommend that you have these files open and ready for when Christine asks you to play them. We'll be ending this session with a short audience Q&A. So if you'd like to ask Christine a question about her songwriting or her novel writing, you can post it in the chat box, or you can ask your teacher or librarian to do that for you. And just so you know, the chat box is private and no one else will be able to see your message. We have enabled live subtitles for this event. So if you would like to turn these on or off, you can do so by clicking the live transcript button, which is a kind of square with 2 C's in it at the bottom of your screen. Lastly, if you enjoy this event, we would love for you to share a post on social media about it, which you can do by tagging us at Reading Agency. So before we start, I will introduce our wonderful speaker. So Christine Pillainayagam is a writer and retail strategist who lives in Kent with her young family and a collection of records, CDs and mini discs. And if you don't know what those are, then ask your teacher or librarian. A mild obsession with the Beatles and the desire to write a story that reflected her own experiences growing up as a first-generation immigrant led her to put that love of music and words into a book. Ellie Pillai is Brown is her first novel. So that just leaves me to hand over to Christine, and I will share your lovely PowerPoint.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining me here today. As Zoe kind of said before, my job today is to kind of talk to you a little bit about songwriting. So Ellie Pillai is Brown. Ellie is somebody that really kind of expresses herself through music and really kind of processes a lot of what she kind of feels about the world through music. And that's something that I also did kind of growing up. So what I wanted to do today was share with you a little bit about how I did that and hopefully help you to kind of find a way for you to kind of express yourselves through music too. So on to the next slide, if you can, Zoe. Who am I? I am Christine Pillainayagam, and then just on to the next one, Zoe. I'm an author, but I'm also a songwriter and a singer. So it was really kind of important to me, as I said before, that when I kind of sat down to write this book, I really wanted to kind of include songs because I felt like it was a great way to really show how Ellie was kind of feeling at different kind of points in the story. So I was able to kind of use some of the skills that I've got as a songwriter and singer to kind of really infuse those into the story. And hopefully when you get a chance to read it, it will really help to kind of bring you inside of Ellie's head. So meet Ellie Pillai. Ellie Pillai is a 15-year-old singer-songwriter who is trying to find her voice. So Ellie is a young brown girl living in a majority white community. So because of that, she's really kind of conscious of her colour, and she's really conscious of how sort of people behave towards her and how sometimes that can be kind of a bit different to the way that they behave towards her friends. So what she tends to do is just try to kind of melt into the background and be completely invisible, because she'd rather sort of people didn't notice that she was different. So she just kind of tries to kind of fade away. And something about the fact that it's her GCSE year means that Ellie just suddenly changes her mind. She suddenly really has this moment of feeling like she wants people to see her, she wants people to hear her, and this year she wants to not be invisible. And there's a number of reasons to why she could be feeling like that. It could be the fact that there's a new boy that started at the school and he sort of makes her brain explode into rainbows every time she sees him, and she's never felt like that before, but he also happens to be going out with her best friend Jessica, so she's trying to sort of process those feelings, and music is one way that she does that. It could also be the fact that she's got a new drama teacher, and this one seems to have noticed she exists and seems to think that maybe she's got some talent and maybe she needs to kind of really put herself out there. Or it could be the fact that she has told this terrible lie to her parents, to her school, to her friends, and she's really conscious that it's there in the background as this kind of ticking time bomb. And, you know, when is she going to get found out? So that's kind of what the story is about. So, as I said before, like, music is incredibly important to Ellie. And at this point, I'm just going to read you a small kind of extract from the book, which really explains, you know, how Ellie feels about music and how she uses it to kind of help process her feelings. There's only one place in the world I feel completely at home. And strangely, it's not actually in my home. It's not because my home is unhomely. I love our home. It's just the music room at school has a baby grand piano, slightly battered and most definitely out of tune, but the kind of instrument that feels like a best friend. I started taking lessons when I was 6 and was so terrible even years later that my teacher claimed she was retiring, keeping only a few select students on, namely everyone except me. It took a while to find the confidence to get back to it after that, but high school can be overwhelming sometimes, and this place was an escape, somewhere I could go to be alone, to think, to take the soundtrack out of my head and into the real world. In the chaos of a high school lunch hour, I found the music room, and laying my fingers down on the piano keys, realised I could suddenly speak its language. The music teacher, who is ancient and often referred to by the less kind people at school as the crypt keeper, and by the rest of us as Miss Mason, is so used to my presence, she sometimes even brings me tea. We're an odd couple, but we enjoy each other's company. Sometimes I leave the door ajar just a little, and when I come out, she gives me tips on my speed or a chord progression I'm working on. She often shakes her head and asks why I'm not in the orchestra or why I'm not taking music. But music is a solo exam, not something you can do as an ensemble. And I'm not ready for that. Maybe I never will be. On the bus this morning, Jessica was quiet, distracted. I wanted to ask her about last night, whether she was annoyed with me, whether I embarrassed her with Ash, whether she had a good time and what their house was like. I wanted to debrief with her the way we always have, but she was serene and thoughtful, like she was debriefing with herself, and I wasn't invited. Run, run, you can fly, and leave this world behind. I'm writing a song, sort of piecemeal. It's coming to me in sections, cadences and chords, the odd line here and there like lyrics on the run. I put my fingers to the keys and press gently, then I let myself sing. It's like primal therapy, like I'm screaming for my soul, and I feel free and heard, like the person I want to be, like the person I could be, if I could just find the words. I'm lost in the song, so I don't hear the door opening, don't see the long legs and green eyes as they lean on the doorframe, taking me in, swallowing me whole. But suddenly I feel them, stop short, turn around. But by then he's walking away, walking like he's swaying to music that I can't hear. He of the permanently tinny earphones and accompanying 60s girls group, Ash, Jessica's Ash. So that kind of tells you a little bit about how Ellie feels about music and how it kind of really helps to sort of soothe her and help her to sort of process her feelings. So just to kind of recap, it's a story that's basically about music, it's about love, it's about friendship, and it's about connection. So I thought a lot as I was kind of writing the songs for the book about the music that Ellie would listen to, and I made loads of playlists, and it really helped me to kind of get inside of her head. And this is a really useful technique for you if you're thinking about writing songs, to kind of create a bit of a music mood board and think about the things that influence you and inspire you. And it's absolutely okay to kind of look at those things and listen to those things and think about ways that you can kind of take some of those ideas and use them in your own kind of writing. So you can see here with my little picture of Ellie on the left-hand side of the page, you can see the kind of music she's into is kind of quite retro. Some of you guys may have heard of some of these artists and some not. So she really loves kind of like Motown, and she loves old soul music. So there's Diana Ross and Aretha Franklin. And there's a lot of like great 60s music that she's into. So she's really obsessed by the Beatles, and she loves 90s Britpop. So she's really into Oasis. And you can see there's The Cure, and also, you know, she kind of loves like 1950s sort of Hollywood glamour. So she's kind of loves things like Marilyn Monroe too. So music has always been a huge part of my kind of creative process. So it's another reason why it was really felt really organic to me to include music in my book. And as I was growing up, I really found myself a lot through music. And I think that our experience of the world can really be told a lot through the music that we listen to and the music that we write. I think music can be kind of an incredible outlet for all of our emotions. And I think that songwriting is just kind of a great way to get through the things that we experience as we're growing up. And it offers us a chance to sort of be our kind of most true selves. So I absolutely love this quote. You guys may or may not have heard of a lady called Dolly Parton. She basically was the kind of Taylor Swift of her time. So she's this amazing kind of prolific songwriter and singer. And she sort of talks about songwriting as a way of channeling your feelings and your thoughts. And she says here, not just mine, but the things I see, the things I care about. So that's something we're going to go on to a little bit later, because, you know, writing song lyrics and writing songs isn't just about talking about the things that you're experiencing, but might just be things that you observe happening in the world around you and the things that you care about. So you can use all of those things as you kind of think about kind of writing your own music. So music, I think, has a really extraordinary purpose. And I think this is something to kind of have in the background of your mind as you're thinking about songwriting. So music has always been a bit of a refuge for me. It's somewhere I can hide, but it's also somewhere I felt like I can be my most kind of true self. But I think also what music does is it sort of tells us about what's happening at any kind of moment in time, and it kind of records history. So an example would be, and this is something you can maybe talk to your sort of teachers about after this session, is there's a wonderful song called "A Change Is Gonna Come," and it's sung by a singer called Sam Cooke. And it's about the civil rights movement. And it was written at a time where there was a massive amount of inequality racially, and it was the sort of precipice of change. So it was really a song that kind of recorded this moment and this idea that, you know, this new day was coming, this new dawn was coming. And it felt, you know, the music feels sort of melancholy, but also incredibly sort of hopeful. And the lyrics are all about, you know, this change that's going to come and how it's going to make the world a better place. And it really records that little moment in history where there was so much change just happening. So I think music and songs have the power to do that, to kind of record history. And of course, what they also do is tell stories. And that's what you have to think about when you're writing your lyrics and your songs, that it tells a unique story of our lives. And that means that it can invoke and it can create and it can record memories. So it's a powerful thing, and it's worth really thinking about how you can use it. So the rule of songwriting is say what you want to say it again, and then say it a different way, and then say it again. So the most important thing to do when you sit down to start writing your lyrics or start writing a song is to really know what you want it to be about. What are you trying to say? What do you want the listener to know? What do you need to kind of get out in the world? So think about what you want to say. And it's just about finding different ways of getting that message across. So my job today, guys, really is to sort of give you a bit of a starter for 10, some ideas about how you can kind of start your songwriting journey, how you can start writing your own lyrics. So I want to help you to find the power of your unique voice and create music that really resonates with you. So there's really kind of two parts to that. And the first part is really going to be about, you know, the power of you and how important it is to make sure that when you're writing anything, it always kind of comes back to you and it feels like authentically you. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. And then in the second part of it, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the anatomy of a song. So really kind of breaking down structure and giving you a few more kind of like handy tips, I guess, particularly for lyric writing. So sort of little starting points. So this first part, the power of you. I absolutely love this Taylor Swift quote. So she says, my experience with songwriting is usually so confessional. It's drawn from my own life and my own stories. And I think that's what makes Taylor's music so powerful, is that when you listen to it, you feel like you're in that moment with her. You have a huge amount of kind of empathy for what she's going through, but you also feel that she's got empathy for what you're going through. So how do you do that when you start writing your songs? So the first thing you can do is you write your experience. So write your songs, write your lyrics about things that matter to you, things that you're thinking about, that you're wrestling with. Find inspiration in your own experiences and really ask yourself questions about things. What scares you, what excites you, what causes you joy or pain or release. Really allow yourself to kind of be quite emotionally raw when you're writing and just really tap into those experiences which are just innately you. Another way that you can tap into the power of you is, as we talked about earlier with the kind of Dolly Parton quote, you know, it doesn't have to be something that's literally happening to you. It can be something that's happening in the world around you, something that you feel strongly about. So you can kind of tune into the world around you and draw from other people's experiences, and just make sure that however you're doing it, you are writing it from your perspective. So it's really unique because it's your perspective of that event. Really connect to the world and try to find a personal take on what you observe. That way, whatever you write is always going to be a reflection of you. It's always going to feel authentic, and that's always going to make it powerful to whoever's listening to it. Write with empathy. I think making sure that you write something that feels like it's going to connect to other people is important. So what you want to do is kind of write something that in a way is going to make somebody else feel sort of seen and heard. It could be an experience that feels kind of universal, so that hopefully someone else is going to listen to it and just feel like, yeah, somebody kind of gets me. I think that's a great way as well to kind of approach songwriting. And finally, and most importantly, be your true self. You know, don't be afraid to show you who you are when you are writing those song lyrics, when you're writing music. Just don't be frightened to just show your absolute true self. Okay, guys, so now I'm going to give you sort of 5 minutes really to do a bit of an activity. So later on in this session, I'm going to give you some music for you to write lyrics to. And in order to kind of make the most out of that, I want you to take 5 minutes now to just think about what you want to write your lyrics about. So have a think about a feeling or a subject that you'd like to kind of write some lyrics or a song about. And it can be absolutely anything. There's no wrong answers here. So it can be how you felt when you woke up this morning, or it can be how you felt when you ran into your ex in a supermarket. It can be absolutely anything. But I want you to take the next 5 minutes to really think about what it is you want to kind of write about. So I've just left a little checklist up on the side to take, just to remind you about this kind of power of you as you think about what you're going to write about. So think about things that you've experienced, things that you've observed, things that you think are empathetic and can be something that other people connect with, and something that feels really authentic to you. So in a second, I'm going to set a little time for 5 minutes. I'm going to pop my camera and myself on mute. And at the end of the 5 minutes, I will come back and join you. Okay, guys, excited to see what you guys come up with. Hello, everyone. I'm back. You've had 5 minutes. I hope that you've had a chance to come up with some really great and exciting thoughts and feelings that you'd like to have a go at writing some lyrics about. So in this next part, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the kind of anatomy of a song. So I'm going to give you a bit of a toolkit and some ideas about sort of how to start writing your own lyrics. But I'm also going to give you a little bit more kind of background about kind of the structure of songs. So that can kind of help you as well as you sort of start to sort of form ideas about writing your own songs. I love this quote, and it's Gabrielle Aplin, and she talks about, you know, I think being a singer-songwriter, your job is to tell a story that other people can't really tell themselves. I think that's a really great way to think about, you know, songwriting in general, but also that kind of concept of empathy and writing something that someone else is going to connect with and feel like, oh, that's how I feel. So number one is kind of structure. Most songs have got a pretty basic structure. There's always exceptions to the rule and things can always be done differently. But as a general rule, a kind of pop song is pretty much broken down into a verse, which is your introduction to the song. So it kind of leads you into the chorus. And the chorus is like the catchy part of the song. It's what we think of as the hook. So it's the bit that you'll find yourself singing in the car or in the shower or when you're getting ready to go out with your mates. And then it will lead into a second verse, a second chorus, and then into a middle eight, which is basically also called a bridge. And it's the section in the middle of the song which kind of takes the melody into a slightly different direction, and it gives the song a bit of variation. And it's usually about 8 bars long, which is why we call it a middle eight. And then it goes back into a verse and then a chorus. So people often wonder, like if you haven't written a song before, where you start. Do you start with the music or do you start with the lyrics? And there really isn't a right or a wrong place to start. It's entirely what feels right for you. Some people will always start with writing the lyrics and then flesh out a kind of melody around it. Some people will start with the melody and that will really inform what the song feels like it's going to be about, and it's entirely up to you. In this case today, we're going to start with the lyrics, so I'm going to give you a bit more information about how you can kind of do that, but also because that's kind of pretty much where I started when I was writing the soundtrack to my book. I kind of started with the lyrics, but as I said before, there is no right or wrong place to start. So as you start hopefully taking this toolkit home and using it yourselves, you can start wherever you like. So to give you a bit more information about lyrics and how to do lyric writing. So as I said, the lyrics are one place that you can start. It's a really important part of the songwriting process, and having a really clear idea of what your song is going to be about is a really good place to start when you are kind of writing something that kind of means something to you. So you've obviously had your sort of 5 minutes to think about what you want your lyrics to be about today. So hopefully you've got a clear idea of where you're going to start. So I always say journaling is a brilliant way to kind of start lyric writing. And that's when you basically have a little notebook or notes on your phone where you start just writing down things that you see, things that you think, just things that are kind of happening in the world around you. And you can then use those as kind of starting points for where you want to kind of start writing lyrics. And touch, taste, smell, sight, sound, and movement are just a great way to bring the listener into a small moment. And that's what a song is. It's kind of a small moment. It's a little snapshot of life, and your lyrics kind of set a scene. So to give you some ideas about how to kind of really get into lyrics, small moments is a kind of perfect starting point. So if you've got a bigger theme that you want to talk about, hone into a small moment as part of that bigger theme. So you're often going to hear songwriters kind of tapping into small moments of their lives and something that they've experienced or observed. And it can be anything from being awake at 2 a.m. to driving down a road and feeling happy and free. You know, what they tend to do is take a small moment about a bigger theme and then build on it lyrically. But it's a really good place to kind of start. It's just thinking about what is this kind of feeling or subject you want to talk about? And how can you take that down to a small moment that's a kind of good place to kind of begin your song and then build out from it. Something else that's a really great thing to do is to read other writers' lyrics. When I was growing up in the era of CDs, there used to be sort of sleeve notes, and you would kind of be able to read all the lyrics to the songs that you were listening to. And that's actually a really useful thing to do, and particularly when you're not listening to the music of the song. So sometimes it's nice to just read the lyrics almost as if they're poetry, and you're going to notice things like repetition and simplicity of language and meaning. And it really, really think about, what did the songwriter want you to walk away knowing? And that's something you've got to apply yourself. So what do you want your listener to walk away knowing? Then the big one, which is, I always think, the most important, is to just be authentic and write the way that you speak. I think there's a tendency when we have to write something like a song or poetry that we kind of try to be a bit flowery or a bit abstract, or we feel like it has to be bigger or better than we are, and it doesn't. Lyrics are an expression of who you are, so they should absolutely be conversational and honest, and they should sound like you. They should sound really authentic. So don't, try and force something to rhyme. Not all songs have to rhyme. They can rhyme if that feels right for you, that's great, but just be conversational and write the way that you speak. That's a good thing to think about when you start writing lyrics for the first time. So a few more kind of nitty-gritty details about how you can go about doing that. As I said before, basic structure of songs is verse, chorus. Now, think about the verse as the kind of setup and the chorus as the payoff. So you're really taking your listener on a journey with your lyrics. You're really kind of telling them something. So think about your verse as like the start of your story. And a way that you can do that is to think about using perspective. So use things like the verse to kind of describe an event. So it could be describing the fact that you're driving down a road, and then the chorus explains how you feel about that you feel happy and free, or you feel like, you're escaping something, whatever it is. The chorus can often be a way of explaining, the events of the verse. And that's kind of a nice way to kind of get started lyrically and tell a story. A couple of other things are like little tips that you can use, are thinking about tense. Are you writing in past, present, or future tense, or a mixture of all three? Experimenting with tenses is a really great way to tell your story lyrically. So are you talking about something that you did in the past, something that's happening now, or something that's going to happen in the future? Even throughout your song, your tenses can change. And again, that can really pay off in telling a more interesting version of your story. Same thing with pronouns. You can experiment with them to just change the shape of your lyrics. You don't have to say I or you. You can use plural pronouns like we or they, and that gives it a different feeling. So you or I can feel very personal and very intimate, and we or they can feel bigger and more anthemic. So it just depends on what kind of feel you're looking for when you're writing your lyrics and telling your story. Also think about things like attitude. All songs have a different attitude, and you can choose what that is. But if you get a bit of a creative block, or if you just want to experiment in general, you can try different attitudes towards whatever the subject matter is. So that's a useful way of sort of kind of approaching lyrics from different directions, and just trying things out and seeing what feels right for you. And importantly, it's about telling stories. So really read your lyrics from start to finish. Do they make sense? Do they tell the story that you want to tell? So it's really about practice. Like any skill, lyric writing is all about trying and trying again. You've just got to keep going. The more that you write, the better you're going to get, and the more that you're going to find your voice and how you sound, and the more confident you're going to get. So, in that kind of vein, don't be afraid to get it wrong. Don't be afraid to write something that you don't like. You might find that we have a go at something today and you just think, oh, I don't like this. And it doesn't matter. The most important thing is just getting something down. I've been in the studio loads of times before, and lyrics are getting rewritten. Like as you're recording, things are changing all the time. Songs are kind of living things, so it's okay for things to be rewritten. But don't be afraid to get things wrong. Don't be afraid to just write whatever you feel. Sometimes it's going to be difficult. Things aren't going to kind of feel like they're going to come. And you've just got to just not be afraid to get it wrong and just keep going. And from that point of view, you know, just keep things moving. It could be that there's a line or something particular that you're getting stuck on. You're trying to rhyme something that just doesn't rhyme or just doesn't make sense. Just skip past it. Sometimes you need to kind of work out what the shape of a story is before you can go back and kind of like hone those individual pieces. So sometimes it takes understanding the song as a whole before a particular line comes to you. So don't be frightened to kind of move past a section and come back to it at a later date. And most importantly, just don't give up. Songs don't tend to arrive in your head fully formed. So, you know, they take time, they take craft. Just keep on writing and just don't give up. So lyrics are one place you can start a song. Another place that you can start writing is the chorus. So the chorus I always think of as kind of being like the spine of a song. It's the kind of main melody. It's the main kind of takeaway, the bit that people are always going to remember. And again, lyrically, the chorus is the bit that people are going to kind of tend to sing, and it's your hook. So some people might try and kind of start writing their chorus first, because to them that's the most important bit. That's the thing they want to say, and then they're going to build their song around that. And again, you know, you might do that lyrically. You might start with what you want to say in that chorus and then kind of build the rest around it and progress it. But again, you know, there's no right or wrong way. It's just whatever feels right for you. Another place you can start, of course, is the verse. As with anybody that is, you know, kind of writing, you know, a story, you might want to start at the beginning. You might want to, you know, you think of your verse as your chapter 1. So sometimes, you know, starting at chapter 3 can feel a bit weird. You might want to start at the beginning and start telling that story melodically or lyrically. So again, it's a place you can start. There is no kind of right or wrong way to do it. And it could be that starting with the verse really helps you to organically find the chorus and move into something bigger. But you're going to know what feels right for you just when you start doing it. Now, the middle eight's a really interesting bit of your kind of songwriting process. And once you've got your verse and your chorus kind of locked down, you know, lyrically and melodically, the middle eight kind of allows you to take it in a slightly different direction. So I always try to get the melody to kind of change, and it's an opportunity to kind of explore opposite modes. So whatever you've done with your verse and chorus, you can kind of almost flip it on its head in the middle eight. So you can go from a major key to a minor key. You've just got to remember that whatever you do has got to organically move back into a verse. But again, you know, from a lyric point of view, your middle eight is an opportunity to maybe change tense or pronoun or attitude. It's a way to kind of give a bit of variation and give the song a little bit of depth. So record it, guys. It's really frustrating when you come up with ideas on the fly. That's why I was talking to you a little bit about journaling earlier, and just making sure that if you come up with an idea, write it down, record it on your phone. It's really frustrating when you think, oh, I've come up with a really good line, and then you cannot remember it later. So just try to kind of remember to record it. It's a really good strategy, and you can go back to it at a later date and have a little play around with it. So my kind of strategy, I guess, in general, is just for starters to kind of keep it simple, get the basis of your kind of lyrics and your song in place before you start adding any additional elements. So if I'm writing a song that I'm going to then record, you know, I will get the kind of basics of that down in terms of the lyrics and the kind of chord progression before I would then, you know, take it into the studio, working with a producer to kind of add all those additional elements. And even when you're listening to songs that you really, really love at home, they will always have started in a very kind of simple, basic format. So to begin with, keep it really simple. And then, you know, that's your opportunity to collaborate. So you can work with other writers, other people you're kind of sitting in the room with now. And, you know, that's an opportunity to kind of look at things from a new perspective. So sharing with other people is a great way to kind of really take your song and your lyrics to the next level. And just walk away, take little breaks from writing. You know, creativity needs a bit of space and air and time. So don't be afraid to just kind of stop, take a bit of a step back and come back to it when you kind of feel like you're ready. and always be learning. So keep an open mind, give yourself time for the kind of process to flow. The only real way to learn how to write a song is just to do it. It's just to sit down and have a go. So, you know, keep an open mind, always be learning, and, you know, you'll never go too far wrong. So this is a great quote, and I think this is a perfect example of how my character Ellie Pillai sees songwriting, which is a way to kind of organise reality and make sense of things. And for those of you that are watching this who think, oh yeah, actually, when I feel this way, I listen to this song, that's what that means. It kind of helps you to sort of work out how you feel about something in that moment, and it helps you to kind of organise your world. So what I'd like to do as we get kind of towards the end of this workshop is give you an example of what we've sort of talked about today. So I have written the songs in this book from Ellie's point of view. And this is a good example. This is taken from a chapter in the book where she talks about how she feels about music. And then I'm going to ask your teachers to share a song with you that she wrote, and you're going to see how she's used her feelings and then express those in a song. So this is the chapter, and it just says, there's a moment when I put my earphones in and the music takes over everything. It takes me places, makes me someone else. And when I talk to him, that's how it feels. Except that someone else is just me, the me I could be if I would just let myself try. When you hear that sound, it turns it all around. And this song is anthemic but gentle, insistent but uncomplicated, the way it feels when I'm with him, in notes and keys and words. It's playing whenever I look at myself, whenever there's a pause, filling the space between my words and my thoughts, my head and my heart, whenever I think of him. So that's Ellie kind of talking about how music takes her places. So you're going to see in a second, we're going to share the next slide, which has got the lyrics to this song on. And then I'm going to ask your teachers to play the song earphones to you as you look at the lyrics. And you're going to see exactly how Ellie has taken those feelings and made them into a song that kind of makes sense. Okay, everyone. So you just need to cue up the song earphones. Hello, everyone. I hope you've had a chance to listen to the song and you've had a chance to read the lyrics, and you'll see a little bit in more kind of detail as an example how I've used that kind of small moment of her talking about putting her earphones in, and then as she goes into the chorus, like talking about, you know, how that kind of makes her feel. I've tried to be quite simple with things like repetition. And so at this point, what I would really love for you guys to do, if we just pop on to the next slide, is another activity part of this workshop. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes to kind of think about the subject that you chose earlier, and I'm going to ask your teachers to play you the music that I've sent them for writing song lyrics to. It's something that I'm actually using at the moment. It's part of a song that I'm writing for book 2. So after this session, should anybody have any brilliant lyrics for some of these chords, I'd absolutely love to hear them. So it's a little bit of music, and it's effectively a 1 verse and 1 chorus. So they can just play that to you. You don't have to write to that music, but maybe just use it as an inspiration or as a starting point. But I'm just going to give you 10 minutes to have a play around, think about what your topic is that you've chosen, and you've got 10 minutes really to have a go at writing some lyrics for a verse and chorus of your own, and just maybe use my music as a bit of a kind of starting point to think about. Okay, see you in 10 minutes, guys. Sorry, just popping back on for 1 second. Zoe, if you could pop on to the next slide. There we go. So these are the tips that we talked about earlier, guys. So just so you have them in front of you as you're working on your lyrics. Hi everyone, I hope you've had 10 minutes to just have a play around and hopefully get you excited about writing lyrics and writing your own songs. It's been an absolute joy doing this workshop today, and thank you so much for listening.
Hi everyone, thank you so much, Christine. That was absolutely fantastic. I'm afraid I don't think we're going to have time for audience questions just because we've gone up until the end, but I'm sure everyone was super busy writing their song lyrics anyway. But if anyone did have any questions that they would like maybe Christine to answer, I'm going to put an email address in the chat box, and teachers and librarians, if you'd like to send any questions through that we didn't get the chance to answer, then maybe Christine will be able to answer them a little bit later. But thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Ellie Pillai is out now and available to buy in bookshops and online. And of course, you can go to your school or public library and find out if it's available to borrow there. If you'd like to find out more about the Reading Agency and what we do, as well as future events for children and young people, you can head to our website, which is readingagency.org.uk, or you can follow us on social media at Reading Agency. We'll be sharing a short feedback form after this event, so we'd really appreciate teachers and librarians if you could tell us what you thought of it. And I think that's everything to say, other than thank you so much, Christine, for joining us, and thank you everybody for watching along, and we hope you had fun. Bye.